amazing Women Speak podcast, inspiring and motivating every Black woman to own, honor, and execute her amazing, individually and collectively, as it was established at birth.
I'm Crystal L. Gunn, founder of the Amazing Woman Network and host of Amazing Women Speak. So thank you in advance for sharing this with your friends so you all can join in on this conversation. It's going to be a blessing. And as promised, we are highlighting some incredibly dope women who are Black history and women's history every single day. And they're leaving their mark on the world and owning their seat at the table. Today, we have an added bonus because of our guest. We will also be discussing chronic dis-ease in the Black community, diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, and more, all which lead to poor health outcomes and higher mortality rates compared to other racial and ethnic groups. So get your pens and paper ready. But first, Michele, thank you for saying yes to Amazing Women Speak. Thank you for being so incredibly dope every single day. And let's go ahead and get this conversation started.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, all. Welcome back to another episode where, as promised, dynamic conversations with some amazing women. As we continue this conversation, connecting Black History to Women's Histories Month, I'm excited about the conversation that's in front of us tonight. Crystal, for always and forever, all you have to do is say what it is you need me to do, and you know my answer will forever be yes. Grateful to share this platform with you. So we all know, fastest hour of your day. Facebook, we invite you to this conversation. Please utilize the chat to drop your questions, your thoughts. Be a part of this conversation. We would love to have you in this next hour with your voices through written word. So let's dive in. Let's find out who is with us tonight and get this conversation started. Lisa Smith, please introduce yourself to the people.
Hello, amazing women. I am Lisa A. Smith, whole food, plant-based nutritionist, health coach, and business coach. And I specialize in taking a whole food, plant-based approach to combating chronic lifestyle disease. Super excited to be here with you all this evening.
Awesome. Right. So when the commercial came out for this week's episode, right? Like there's so many different ways to unpack how she put that hyphen in between disease, dis-ease, and disease, right? So when I think about the seat at the table, the conversation that's grounding us tonight, and thinking about the approach that you are taking, Lisa, to address disease that relieves the dis-ease that's happening in the Black community. Tell us about your journey. How did you get here?
Oh, so it all started from my own health and wellness journey. I think health and wellness is one of those careers that most of us get into because it stems from our own personal transformation. And that is no different with myself. And so I started my own weight loss journey back in 2012. I had a 65-pound weight loss, and by hiring my first personal trainer, she helped me do that, start that weight loss journey. And as I began to lose weight myself and kind of fall in love with myself and my body all over again, I also fell in love with just this content and this lifestyle overall. And so I was living abroad at the time. And when I got back to the US, I decided to make a significant career change and move into the health and wellness realm. And as I began my journey, I started as a personal trainer and just really focusing on the physicality. And of course, you cannot have the physicality without the nutrition. So once I realized the gap and what my clients needed, I started studying nutrition, discovered this whole food, plant-based vegan lifestyle, decided to start trying it out on myself. Results were amazing. I was already at a healthy weight, but for me, the biggest benefit was how my mind worked, just like cognitive and neurological functioning was through the roof, recall, ability to concentrate, EQ, emotional intelligence went through the roof. And so I started studying at a deeper level, got certified in plant-based nutrition, retired from being a personal trainer. And now all I do full time is slaying plants for a living, I like to say. So I love teaching the power of plants and how they can be so medicinal. Most of us know food is medicinal, but I know taking a whole food, plant-based vegan approach is a less conventional approach. And so I love talking this content. And now I've actually went on to create my own plant-based coaching certification, the first to be founded by a person of color. And I also certify health professionals in this content now as well. And it is just my dreams work. So I wake up every day blessed to do what I love.
There's not many people that get to say that. So much there. And so I think about first the decision to make that journey over from the lifestyle that you were living into a plant-based, into being vegan. So many people are nervous about what that transition will look like, what it could ultimately mean to their lives. And right, like food is boring in the vegan life, right? Like food is not interesting in the vegan life. So first I want to ask you about, and we'll talk about the flavors and how we engage folks in, right? First I want to talk about what the transition was like for you going into a vegan lifestyle. When I did it for a food challenge, right? Like one of the health groups I belong to, they try different things, right? Like just to get you exposed. So it was a 21-day challenge. Give me routine, give me some structure around what it's supposed to look like. I can pretty much follow it. I did it for a year. I did, and right, like I'm not a person who was not going to wear leather. It was just I was paying attention to what I was fueling my body, right? Like I just wanted to pay attention to what I was fueling my body. And then the label reading got more complicated than I was willing to commit to for the rest of my life. So I backed out and became a pescatarian. So I'm curious about your journey.
Yeah.
That how you got there and what was the sticking point for you?
Yeah, for sure. So as I mentioned, I approached this lifestyle from a professional standpoint, just trying to learn more about nutrition science and understand how one could lose weight and improve longevity, because losing weight doesn't always do that, right? There's actually unhealthy ways to lose weight. And so I wanted both, right? The longevity and the weight loss for my clients. And so as I began to study it and begin to do it myself, I too became a pescatarian first too, Michele. But then the better I began to feel, I wanted to see like how much further can I go with this thing, right? So let me take out all animal products, take out the fish as well. And it really like skyrocketed the way I felt every single day. And the sticking point for me was pretty much the way my brain performed, not just after adopting a vegan diet, but then going deeper with the SOS, what we call it, salt, oil, and sugar, because you can be an unhealthy vegan. Like vegan doesn't mean you're automatically healthy. There's definitely ways that you can still consume disease promoting foods as a vegan. So I'm a whole food, plant-based vegan, and I try and make that distinction very clear because I'm not a junk food or comfort food vegan. And so I too eat this way for medicinal and lifestyle purposes, right? So to your point about the leather, for example, I won't buy new leather, but I still wear the leather I own before going vegan, so I didn't start off as just like a compassionate vegan. It really was for health reasons. And so I eat that way intentionally, making sure I eat plants every day and things like that. So for me, the results I felt from a like mental standpoint, neurological standpoint, my recall, the way my brain operates, just my energy levels throughout the day, like it was non-negotiable. Like I was like, I don't want to put anything else in my body that's going to revert me back to the version I was before. And then it just became easier, because you're right. Initially, reading labels, auditing everything that goes in your body absolutely takes some work. There's definitely a gestation period where you develop a new normal, but once you have it, you have it. And then, every now and then you might have something or something slips in your food and you feel the difference. And so that also helps too, to have kind of like that intentional or unintentional rebound, and you feel it instantly. And so for those reasons, I was like, I'm committed to this lifestyle. And then teaching it and doing it for a living, probably gives me a privilege as well. Being immersed in a lifestyle and a public figure who upholds this lifestyle also adds another layer of accountability.
So we know in any health journey, whatever it is, it's not a light switch, right? Like I always tell my clients, it's this dimmer, right? Like you're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days, right? So somebody who is interested in exploring a vegan lifestyle, what are some of the early things that they can do to start thinking about incorporating it in a more holistic way into their lifestyle?
Yeah. Well, one, get very clear on why you're doing it. Cause like we mentioned, like you could just be like, I just want to save the animals. I want to save the earth. Or do you have a pre-existing health challenge that you're trying to combat? Because what you're trying to combat, in my opinion, should determine how quickly you need to move. Right. So while everyone doesn't need to move at the same pace. I don't believe the pace we move at should be based on what we feel like doing. It should be based on what we're combating, if that makes sense, right? So someone who has, type 2 diabetes, somebody who is obese, or somebody who has kidney failure, fatty liver disease, digestive health issues, autoimmune, like what you're combating, your energy should match what you're combating, right? So because one of the things I do not believe in is moderation, for example. Like most people believe everything in moderation. I wholeheartedly disagree. I believe moderation is a privilege reserved for those of us who have done the work to get to optimal health. And so if your body or your mind is compromised, then you should be moving at a pace in which is going to expedite you putting that condition in remission as quickly as possible. And so that's kind of how I approach it. So if somebody's just starting off, it's all about getting clear on what, if anything, you're combating. And if you're combating a sophisticated condition, then I highly recommend someone starts off with a coach or in a program, or making sure they have some level of support. I do not recommend DIY for somebody who is combating something specifically. I highly recommend getting in a community, joining a challenge, sitting at the feet of someone who already lives it, because you don't have the luxury of making mistakes.
I really love that. And understanding the importance of getting a coach, getting in a community, because so much of the things that we're looking to change in our lives, right? Like it's going to take more than just your motivation, right? Like you really, and knowing what to do and to do it well, right? Like it's really interesting. So you've got me thinking a little differently, right? Like I tell my clients all the time, right? Like it's not about deprivation. I think about moderation, right? As an adjustment to moving step closer to, right? So I love you challenging me to think about, no, I don't ascribe to moderation. You need to be focused out. And a lot of people can't do that because of the other things we're carrying, right? Like the other mental baggage that we're carrying. So I like that you're offering up, don't try this alone, right? Get a coach, get in a community, because it can become very frustrating. Right. And you will give up quickly when you think that you're doing a thing and you're not getting the progress or the change that you think you're doing, because you don't know all the ins and outs. So thank you for lifting up. That's really important. Right. Like I'm vacillating between really wanting to dive into your knowledge and sharing that with the people. And I also want to talk about your seat at the table. Right. So I'm going to teeter-totter, Lisa, hang in there with me. Right. Because there's so much on both sides of this. Right. Like there aren't many people that look like you that are sitting at the tables helping us think about, right? Differently. Tell us about the challenges that you endured getting to where you are on the business end.
Oh, Michele, you're right. Fastest hour of your day. So, okay. I mean, call a thing, just like credibility. So from one aspect, right, because I work in a health and wellness field and I do, help individuals with these chronic lifestyle disease. One side of it is you're not a doctor, right? You're not an MD. And I must say, I almost exacerbated that insecurity because I went to pre-med for 2 years before I dropped out and decided I wasn't going to do it because I was doing it for those reasons. Like they're not going to trust me. They're not going to believe me. I'm not going to be credible. But the fact of the matter is, like today, one of the reasons I train nurses and doctors because they don't get the nutrition and lifestyle science in medicine. So why would I go where they came from and they're still seeking con ed out? So I had to make it make sense. But I spent 2 years in pre-med from that insecurity alone, right? So there's a whole lesson in that. And so there's that side of it where, my doctor told me to do that. My doctor told me this runs in my family. Now you come telling me, no, we can put this in remission and we do something about it. So I'm always battling that with clients, like just that, I don't know if I believe that this is available to me, simply because one, I've seen it in my family over and over again. Plus I have somebody who I'm supposed to trust, my medical provider, telling me that this is just genetic. So why would I change my diet if mom and granddad had it? So I faced that, right? So that's been an uphill battle. And then, going into white spaces, right? So I remember a couple years ago, I was speaking at Wayne State Medical School, ironically, the same school that I had dropped out from. And I was back talking to their first and second year students. And I remember, for example, one of the students, I was talking about mental health and I was talking about that our gut is the top producer of serotonin, where most people think it's our brain. It's actually our gut. And he raised his hand. Where'd you hear that from? Like, and started Googling right in front of me to see if I was right. So it's been incidences like that, where it's like, you're not credible because maybe you didn't go to this school or you don't look like this. And so it's been, and then trying to navigate a lot of plant-based conferences and summits and just that community. I was educated by mostly white men. And so when I, started really digging in and getting into this field, one, I wanted to create a space for people of color to learn this information, because Black people are the fastest demographic of vegans, fastest growing demographics of vegans in the US, which means to me that our coaches and our subject matter experts should also look like us. Like, we have a ton of vegan like activists and some great community people, but as far as like, where do I get a coach, or if I want to see somebody at one of these conferences, or I want to see the people writing the books, like, it still doesn't look like us. And so I initially tried to play in the world that already existed, and I had a terrible time. I used to be the executive director of an organization called Plant-Based Nutrition Support Group. And so I came in, I was the top of the food chain, and I took over a staff that didn't look like me. So they were older, and most of them were, Caucasian. And I tried to play in that world that already existed, and it didn't bid well. And so I decided to come over and do my own thing. And I created the Plant Protocol, plant-based coaching certification. And now I educate, people who are going to serve marginalized communities on nutrition and lifestyle science. So I tried to do it their way. It didn't work. So I created my own lane.
Because their way wasn't created for us in the first place.
100%.
Yeah.
Right. Which is right. Like, it's far too often a part of the conversation that we have to have. Yeah. Right. So we've been socialized to try to play their game and be grateful for a seat at their table, even if it's not meeting our needs. And then, right, like, build all of the roadblocks when we say we're going to go and create our own.
Yeah.
So thank you for your resilience and doing the work that allows you to be able to do it the way that you see is most beneficial to Black and Brown folks. So thank you for that. Thank you. For those that don't know, tell us, what's the difference between a plant-based vegan and a vegan?
Oh, thank you so much for asking, Michele. So the vegan is just the absence of animal products. That's it. It's that simple, right? So you can have a smoothie and it easily be vegan if there's no yogurt and if there's a nut-based milk, right? So vegan is just the absence of animal products. Vegan is not an indication of healthy or not healthy. It is not an indication of disease promoting versus health promoting. It just means there's no animal products in this meal. It's that simple, right? Whereas what we teach is a whole food, plant-based vegan lifestyle, which in addition to no animal products, is also the absence of ultra-processed food and the absence of excess SOS, salt, oil, and sugar. And so we really prioritize eating food as close to its original form as possible. So we don't want the molecular structure of the food disrupted, because that disrupts the integrity of the food. So when we start breaking down food, chopping it up, turning it into powders and liquids and all of this stuff, then it really disrupts the bioavailability of the food, meaning how our body absorbs it. And so we teach eating the food as close to its whole food form as possible, so that you can get all of the sustenance from the food as possible. And so you can easily be a comfort food vegan, and there's a bunch of comfort food vegan options out here, or you can be a whole food plant-based vegan who really prioritizes literally eating plants. You'd be surprised how many vegans don't eat plants. And so we want to make sure that you're literally eating the plants so that you get all of the benefits, especially if you adopt this lifestyle for physical and mental health challenges.
Yeah, because I could appreciate the face you made when you said that, right? Like, how many vegans don't? And when you go to the stores, right? Like, if you look in the areas where, right, like especially at Kroger's where, right, like they give you the green sign, like, come here for the healthy. And there are things that are full of soy. There are things like tempeh, there are Beyond Meat, right? Like, so that face, right, like reminds us of the importance of knowing that distinction.
Yeah.
And really understanding what are the benefits of being plant-based, what does it mean to be vegan, and how do I navigate those waters if I'm trying to achieve a lifestyle that will add years to my life.
Yeah. And I will say though, soy is not bad. Soy, we have two receptors on our cell, alpha and beta. And so the phytoestrogens that are present in soy land on our beta receptors. So some people think that it's going to promote some type of disease or cancer, but that has been debunked for many years. So soy is not bad, but how it is potentially processed or added to a packaged food could be, like the edamame bean is the original, like is where soy comes from. There's nothing wrong with edamame. There's nothing wrong with tempeh. There's nothing wrong with tofu. So you can't have a bunch of processed soy though that's included in a bunch of vegan junk. Don't get me wrong, but soy in and of itself, like the soybean, the edamame bean, tempeh, or really clean organic tofu, sprouted tofu, it's perfectly fine.
That's really interesting because the doctors are still telling, right, like some of my clients themselves.
Mhm.
And so even understanding that distinction, right, like when it becomes processed versus its natural state, which comes full circle to the conversation that you're having around understanding the difference between, again, being a vegan and being plant-based and knowing the foods. And so, right, like I raise my hand, I'm one of those who have been guilty of not going beyond and doing the additional research. We trust the person in the white coat to give us the right kind of information, right? And so I've stayed away from soy for years intentionally, right? Because of, with an autoimmune disease, listening to the doctor telling me, right? Like it's not going to absorb in your system the way that you need, ... right? Like all of those things. So there's value in the knowledge that you have, even for folks who have not considered a change. This kind of information can make you curious enough to think about, what do I need to be doing different, again, to add years to my life.
That's right.
So a couple things. So let's take the labels off, right? Because there's some people that are out there saying, oh, they're just pushing this vegan thing. They're just pushing this vegan thing, right? So let's just take the labels off.
Mm-hmm.
What should we be eating every day? Because we know it's not processed food. It's like when I go into the grocery store, it's like the majority of the aisles, I'm not even going down, because if it's canned, if it's in a package, and if it's already been processed, I know I'm not supposed to eat that. So removing the labels, vegan, vegetarian, plant-based, blah, blah, what should we be eating every day for optimal health?
First and foremost, plants every damn day. We are not eating the medicine. We are not eating the, I don't know if that was loud. I apologize.
Yes, it was.
Okay. I meant to add before we started recording. But plants every damn day. Somebody put it in the chat. Somebody put it on a t-shirt. Somebody put it on a hat. Like, I cannot overstate how much benefit comes from the plant kingdom. So regardless if you're still eating animal products, most people are not eating enough plants. And so the fruit, the vegetables, the whole grains, the legumes, the nuts, the seeds, people, that is the medicine. Every supplement you're going to buy, every medication you're going to be prescribed, over the counter, whatever, it is derived from a plant. Go straight to the source. When we chop it up, when we bottle it up, it disrupts the integrity of it. The dosage can be too high. And so that can also impact how it bioreacts with our body. Eat the whole real plant. I can put it in a smoothie, put it in a salad, put it in a soup, whatever you can do to get the plants in every day. So many of us are not getting enough plants. Then the second thing that I think will be probably the next deficiency that most people have is with fiber. So every single person needs to be consuming a minimum of 30 grams of fiber a day. Most of us are battling health challenges strictly because our gut health is so out of whack. So when it comes to our microbiome and all of the bacteria, the gut bugs that live in our gut, we are not feeding them the fiber they need. And we're using these synthetic things to move our bowels into, prebiotics, probiotics. You don't need that. You just need to eat 30 grams of fiber a day. And I think the final thing I would recommend will be the water. Most of us are chronically dehydrated. So we're not drinking enough water. We should be drinking half of our healthy body weight in ounces per day. And you really want to prioritize getting the water in every single day. My pro tip for everybody will be 25 ounces within the first 30 minutes of waking. It'll change your life. And if for some reason you have a job or career or something where you can't drink so much water, chew your water. So one of the best ways to get hydration in is through fruit. Fruit is nothing but structured water. So increase your fruit intake to increase your hydration. So that would be plants, fiber, and water is where I would start to get somebody back on track to optimal health.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that about fruits, right? Because that's another one that's gotten a bad name, right? Can't eat a lot of fruit because it's full of sugar, right?
Like, who came up with that? Somebody who didn't want you to eat fruit.
Right.
They wanted
By
you
the
to take
time they
that.
finish, we'll be out here licking rocks.
Right.
It's so untrue. It's so untrue. It's because just to be clear, there is a difference between drinking orange juice and eating an orange, right? And so
For sure.
you want to chew the orange, you want to chew the banana, you want to chew the apple, because it's the fiber that's going to slow down the release of the sugar into your bloodstream. And so the fiber that's present in the flesh of the fruit is going to help control the blood sugar spikes. So there is nothing wrong with fruit. Eat a banana, eat pineapple, eat mangoes. It's perfectly healthy. And actually one of the things we recommend to our students in their daily protocol is a cup of berries every single day. So you want to try and get, whether it's in a smoothie, you know, a bowl or whatever, berries every single day will really change your life. The antioxidant property is powerful.
So when I was growing up, one thing that for sure, dinner time, we were at the table as a family and there was always something green, like always something green. Or my daughter, who's now like 21, that's not the thing for her every day, but it has been instilled in her enough that she's going to say several times throughout, I need to make sure that I eat, right? Because it also helps to regulate the movement, the bowel movements, and it's pushing the stuff through. So I'm grateful for those sort of things. What can someone do? Mm-hmm. Like I'd love to be able, you know, we always give all of this information, and this is me going on the financial side, and I try to do this on the financial side. We give all of this information, and then people leave, and it was so much information, they don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. So they do nothing. Yeah. 3 things that they can start to do today to, and again, not even thinking about a label, oh, I want to become this, other than I want to become more healthy. 3 things that they can do, easy things. And I think you talked about some of them with the water and eating the plants, but how do they stay on track with what are they? And then like, how do they stay on track? Because it's easy to go in the kitchen and eat. Yeah. Or to go through the drive-through for some people and eat. For sure.
Yeah. So I think the step 1 will be a mindset assignment I would give people. We have to evict this everything in moderation belief. I will start with your beliefs. I will start with healing your relationship with food, or let me not make the assumption that we have an unhealthy one, but observing your relationship with food, because most of us eat behaviorally when we need to be eating biologically, right? Mm-hmm. So we eat based on the occasion, we eat based on how we're feeling, we eat based on circumstance. And so we want to prioritize. I'm not saying you shouldn't enjoy your food. I'm not saying you shouldn't look forward to it. It has to be palatable, all the things. But first and foremost, every single day, we should prioritize eating what our body and brains need to thrive, and not just what smells and looks good, because most people are calorically full, but nutritionally they're starving. Mm-hmm. You could have had 3 meals today and your body is starving because you've had no nutrients. Okay. Yeah. And so my first thing would be, stop thinking you're entitled to junk. Stop thinking that everything in moderation is a real approach. Number 1, moderation is a made up serving size that helps you live with the fact that you don't have self-control. Okay. So that's number 1. We have to evict that I get to have a little bit of the bad. Why is it okay to microdose something that causes disease and improves your chance of a premature death? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, when you put it that way, yeah. No, go ahead. You're
right, and I like that, right? Like, because again, that's because you've done the mindset homework, right? Like I said, which is why I tell my clients who aren't in that mind space, right? Like, that's why I talk about moderation. Mm-hmm. I'd rather you think about a cookie instead of 8 cookies. Mm-hmm. Right? Sure. Like, So we've got to start somewhere. So I really like you coming back to like the first assignment is that mindset, right? Like your relationship with food. And in the Black and Brown community, it is how we celebrate, right? Like we go to grandma's house and Sunday dinners and right, like it is how we celebrate.
Yeah.
When we go out with the girlfriends, right? Like before we go to the museum, we got to go have dinner and cocktails before, like our lives are built around it. So there is some mind work that has to happen.
Yes.
Otherwise, we will naturally revert back to our old behaviors. And it's not about blame. Again, we've been socialized and conditioned in these ways.
Yep.
And so it's going to take something more than, again, I woke up today and I decided.
Yeah.
Because again, the ways in which we have been conditioned.
Well, I will say this, Michele, I'm gonna push back a little bit.
Please.
And I truly believe, you know how people say, you know, I'm in transition. At least I hear this all the time, right? They run into me or they come into one of my classes. I'm not where you are at, Lisa. I'm in transition. I'm transitioning. These people have been transitioning for 6 months, 8 months, 2 years, 3. I don't know how long transition is. And I will say this, there are some things in life that absolutely require a transition. And there are some things in life that requires a decision. And sometimes we get the things confused. Changing your diet, regardless of how you're going to change it, is a decision. Like you don't have to transition for a whole year away from potato chips if that is the thing that you're addicted to that's keeping you from your weight loss goals. It doesn't take a whole 2 years to transition off of pop. It doesn't take 6 months to transition from dairy. Like all we are doing is prolonging, because even when you eat smaller amounts of this stuff, part of the reason I don't believe in moderation is not just from a mindset and behavior standpoint, but also you have to understand how dopamine works. Like we're not really addicted to sugar. We're addicted to the dopamine hit that's released. So we're flooding our pleasure pathway with this neurotransmitter. So even having it in smaller amounts is going to entice more cravings, right? So and it's harder to moderate something than it is to abstain from it. It's much harder to moderate something than it is to abstain from something. Because moderation is made up. Again, like if I ask Crystal what's her definition of moderation, meaning how often, and I ask Michele and I ask 3 other people, we're all going to have different answers.
For sure.
Right. So we take it as like, you know, I moderate, I have a little bit whenever I want it, whenever. It's like, at what point does the self-control come into play? Like at what point does exercising the power of no come into play? Like at what point do we make a decision that this isn't serving me in this season? And I'm not saying for life. I'm saying if your body and mind is compromised and you know that every time I eat this, it makes my stomach hurt, or every time I have this, I know that it's going to halt my weight loss goals, or every time I have this, make my blood sugar spike. What on earth, like logic would tell us, let me just have small amounts of it, even though I'm already compromised? Moderation is a privilege reserved for those of us who have done the work to get from out under the disease.
And so Lisa, right. And so, yeah, I'm loving this conversation. And I love when Black women can challenge each other with love and we have the whole conversation, right? So so I think about the whole of us, right? Like, and you talk about like what makes us, because everything else around us makes us, right? So it's hard for me to choose, right? Like oftentimes when we think about food, like it's the thing that we get to control when our life is out of control, right? Like, so it's about that relationship that we've had. Yeah. And so, right, like as much as I desire, right? Like that's why folks with diabetes end up having their leg amputated, or, right? Because still trapped in the mind, yes, even though they know that this is literally killing them. The ways in which our relationships have been built with food, yes, right? Like even somebody who does physical things every single day and gets to pour into other women in that way, I'm also looking at the other things that are contributing to the choices that they're having to make, right? So listen, I'm going to recommend all my clients come have a conversation with you, because it is, right? Like I'm watching them struggle with the other areas of their life, and it makes sense to me why they're struggling with their food choices as well. Yeah. right?
Michele, you hit the nail on the head. You talking that now we're getting good. So here it is. You just said it, because I'm using this food because this is what I can control. There's other areas of my life that are misaligned or unfulfilled. And so therefore the food becomes the crutch, right? And this is when I'm teaching addiction, what I tell people is like, the sugar is not the problem, it's the answer, right? The alcohol is not the problem, it's the answer, right? It's whatever is disrupting your life, your happiness, your peace of mind. You're using the sugar, the salt, the potato chips, the alcohol, that whatever as the answer to that. So while the problem is in the kitchen, it can be solved in the kitchen. So let me tell you what the true problem is. It's a lack of obedience. So many of us are living our lives disobediently. Every area of your life that is unfulfilled, that you're dissatisfied in, relationships, finances, spirituality, whatever it is, you have to start showing up and being obedient in that area. So let's take career, for example. So many people are dissatisfied with their career. They're dissatisfied with what they do for 40 plus hours a week. So they come home like, look, I'm about to bury myself in a bag of chips and a carton of ice cream. Absolutely. Right. So we don't solve the problem by giving them a meal plan. We solve the problem by helping them create an exit strategy. When you are in a position or a circumstance that brings you discomfort, that makes you unhappy, that's where the work needs to be. So what it boils down to for a lot of people, with Black people specifically, especially like we all serve mostly Black women, we have mastered hard work and we have dropped the ball with faith. So what that means is we know the scripture, which says, faith without works is dead. But my theory is we have overworked on hard work and underutilized faith. So what that means is when you are in a job that you can't stand, but you believe that you can't leave it because it is secure, is because you've worked so hard to get there and you think the only way to get what you want out of life is through hard work. When you live a life of radical obedience, meaning you only do things that are aligned with your unique gifts and talents, it requires more faith than it does hard work. And so many of us know how to work our way to where we want to be, but we don't know how to faith our way to where we want to be. So because we need to maintain so much control, we believe the only way is to stay in conditions that don't serve us, because we don't have the belief, we don't have the faith that we can exit from this circumstance safely. I can't get out of this relationship. I can't leave this job safe. Like, we lack so much faith and belief with moving toward radical obedience. And so then we stay addicted to substances because, like you said, Michele, it's the only control. This is the only joy I get out of my day. Don't take this from me. But let me tell you, what I'm doing right now brings me so much joy. There's not a potato chip or a cookie you can put in front of me that will combat with how I feel when I speak and I teach and I coach. I pray that everybody finds the faith to wake up every single day and do what makes them happy, because I promise you, it's not a glass of alcohol that could touch that. So what we need to do is prioritize living a life of radical obedience, and then it will be much easier to get our control back from food.
Yeah. So thank you for, right, like it's everything about the whole of you, right? Like, you cannot compartmentalize and think that you can fix one without paying attention to the other, right? Like, so that's part of my messaging, right? Like, so you've got to be able to, otherwise you'll continue to go into that compartment and pick up the things that will soothe and make you feel better in the moment without paying attention to the long-term impact. And so you got to do the work, right? Like, again, it comes back to that mind. I love that, right? Because again, even getting on the scale alone and being unhappy with the number, that in and of itself isn't going to create the right kind of tension, right? Like, what else is causing, right? Like, what are the other areas in my life that are causing this thing to exist in that way? And how do we unpack that? And the biggest challenge, Lisa, and Chris and I have had conversations with women over the last year about that, is having that transparent conversation with the person in the mirror. Right? Because I can create a story.
Yeah.
The reason why that thing is okay, or it has to be this way.
Yes.
Right? Yes. And I really love you challenging us to think more about how our faith is in play or not in play. Because we believe in order for it to show its greatest outcome, we've got to do all of these things. And I'm so glad, right? Like the freedom of doing a job that you love is shared by few.
Yes.
Yeah.
Shared by few. And in the Black community where we are as women, we are primary breadwinners, right? Like I love how many women we've had a chance to talk to that walked away from corporate America.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because again, there's very few of us who get paid by corporate America that love, I happen to be one of them. I love my job.
Yes.
It feeds my soul to be able to talk about race and racism in this country and how it's killing Black and brown, right? Like I love that, but not many people get to do that. So I love that we do have, it's the compartments. So thank you even for that. It's the whole of who we are that have to be addressed if we're going to be successful in any of the areas.
Amen.
So as we continue to talk about the whole, there's a book that I read it often, and even when I'm talking to other people, I refer back to them, and it's called Feelings Buried Alive, Never Died. And it really addresses those other things that are going on in our life, right, that are causing dis-ease. And you have to address those things that are going on in your life in order to help heal that disease. And in this book, it says it is estimated that 90% of all physical problems have psychological roots, right? And so I just want to touch on, because I have people call and say, Krista, pull out the book and tell me what's happening with this, because they have a thing or they've been diagnosed with a thing. And even with obesity, now understand that all of the things listed may not be for the individual, you know, all of the things may not be the thing that you need to address, but I think you need to look at the thing and say, well, what do I need to address here? As well as changing that diet, right? Yeah. But like under obesity, using food as a substitute for affection, inability to admit to self or others what you really desire, inability to express true feelings, seeking love, protecting the body, trying to fulfill the self, or stuffed feelings. And I believe that you have to look at both sides of that coin. You got to look at what you're putting in your body versus what's happening in your life and manifesting in your body as disease and illness.
Yep.
Come on. Come on with that one, Lisa.
Yeah. So this is so beautiful. So I taught a masterclass last year about chronic stress, and I talked about this specifically. You know, Western medicine, or Eastern medicine, excuse me, does this very well, teaching how, you know, every system and organ in the body is connected to a specific emotion. And so recognizing how the emotions you feel, the thoughts you think, and how that manifests in the body on a cellular level impacts ultimate health is super important, right? So like the heart is hate and impatience, right? Or the spleen is worry, for example. And so understanding that our life is a physical manifestation of the thoughts we think, and our emotions are manifested and communicated through the body on a cellular level. And so you're 100% right. When we have unresolved issues, unresolved trauma, when we have a low EQ, low emotional intelligence, meaning we haven't been taught how to feel, so we don't know how to feel feelings. So we eat our feelings, we drink our feelings, we ignore our feelings, all of that. Like most of us have not been taught how to feel feelings. And so all of that absolutely promotes disease in the body. And what's beautiful though, when you get on your healing journey and you start digging deep, right, and peeling back those layers and doing the work and confronting those feelings, confronting that trauma, whatever, each one of our organs and every system in our body is also tied to a positive emotion. So as you begin to feel love, as you begin to feel joy, as you become more courageous, all of that begins to also heal and raise the vibrational frequency of the body. So vibrational frequency is lowered with negative emotions, negative circumstances, negative thoughts, and it's raised with the opposite of those things. So understanding the connection between the brain and how and everything from the neck down is super important, because you're right. So many people believe that, you know, mental health issues, all of that is strictly a neck up issue, and it's not. And, you know, and so we starve the body from nutrients from a, you know, food standpoint, but then we also starve the body from the opportunity to heal when we don't do the work, the personal development work that's required. So absolutely, I agree 100%.
we've just been so conditioned to, they say the body was designed to heal itself. And we've just been so conditioned to, no, don't do what you need to do to heal yourself. Come take this prescription medication, right? And I'm not saying, Lord knows, I am not saying people don't take well, I am, but don't take the prescription medication. And for some, and I've seen it where, well, no, I'm just going to go take this pill because I don't want to do the work necessary to allow my body to do what my body was designed to do, and that's to heal.
Yeah. I mean, it is some of that, and everybody gets to make their own decision, because you're right.
Yeah.
There is going to be oftentimes a preference for what is perceived as convenient, right? But I think what most people don't understand about medication is that medication is not treatment. Medication helps you live with a disease. It is not slowly putting it in remission, right? And so if you do need the medication in the interim, while you do the work to put the condition in remission, that will be the ideal circumstance, right? But most people think if I just take my pill every day on time, then I'm treating my hypertension, I'm treating my high cholesterol. And that is not the case. Medication is not treatment. It's just going to help you live with it. And so we need to understand better, like, what lifestyle modifications are required for me to truly put this behind me, because when our body and mind is compromised, it also compromises our ability to live radically obedient and be on assignment. You can't be unwell and on assignment. They cannot coexist.
Wow. That was a whole word right there.
Right there, right there. And it's so interesting because, right, like when you hear things on television, they will also tell you, and with a healthy lifestyle. Right. Mm-hmm. So, and that's the part we tune out, and we think that the magic is in the pill. Right. Yeah. So even any weight loss fad diet that you go on, weight loss surgery, or wearing the waist trainers, right? They tell you, and you have to, right, like have a healthy. Mm-hmm. Well, if I jump over the waist trainer and go to the healthy living part, I don't need the way, right? But we miss that because we are a microwave world. We want everything immediate, right? And we're willing to take the ground up version of our plants because it's quick. Yeah. It's right. Like I don't have to do the work, thinking that we're getting the maximum benefit, right? And because we have been, like, social media drives so much of the way that we think and so much in the way that we operate. Like, influencers are really a real thing, and they're impacting the choices that we're making, taking from us our ability, our need to think for ourselves, right? So always being willing to do the homework, to do the research, not just click on the first thing that shows up as the most popular thing on your Google search. Do the work so that you can make an informed decision. And you will not hear Lisa, I am sure, say the answer to all is to go eat a plant. You have to first find out, identify what is going on with you, so that you are addressing it in the right way. So please hear us, Facebook. The answer is not, right? Like, I got a treatment, a diagnosis for A, and you have to do your homework. You have to find you a Lisa Smith in this world to help you unpack, to ensure that you're on the right journey. Yeah. Doing the good thing, doing what's best for us is often the hard thing, because again, like, what we define as pleasure usually is coming from a place of those things that cost us down the road, versus that are sustaining us in a more healthy way.
That's right.
I told you, fastest hour of your day, 7:50 already. And there's so much more. So, Lisa, I do want to, right, like, folks need to know how to get a hold of you. Mm-hmm. And in the middle of all that you do to educate, to bring awareness, what do you do for self-care?
Mm-hmm. Well, I prioritize integrity. So everything I tell my students to do is what I do for self-care, like eating my plants, exercising, doing the personal development work, working on my spirituality and my relationship with God to make sure I always operate out of faith and don't make decisions out of desperation or fear. Reading, like, traveling, like, everything that makes me happy is in my life. intentionally and all the time. Like there is nothing that I'm like, I'm waiting for this circumstance to do this. Everything that I love is on my calendar. And so that is something that I prioritize constantly, because you guys all know you can't pour from an empty cup. You got to stay fulfilled in order. And then the work that we do, constantly pouring into others, it can take a lot out of you. You know, compassion fatigue is real. And so I have to prioritize making sure that I prioritize pleasure. So I prioritize pleasure constantly. So that makes me happy. And then how to get in touch with me. Listen, if you want to hear me yelling at you more about ain't no such thing as moderation, then the best way to find me first and foremost will be on social media, Instagram and Facebook at Lisa Angel Smith. And then my website for anyone who wants to work with me, check out my podcast or book me to speak, is lisaangelsmith.com. Super simple, lisaangelsmith.com, and at Lisa Angel Smith on Instagram and Facebook.
Right. So when you know better, you do better. My clients are going to be mad tomorrow when I say we're no longer having a moderation conversation.
Yeah.
When I know better, I know how to do better. It does not take me hitting my head up against the wall. So, Crystal, remember, we're no longer having conversations about moderation.
Listen, as soon as she said it, I was like, oh man, everybody gonna be mad.
Right?
Ain't no transition. It's a decision. It's no transition. It's a decision. Make the decision. A made up mind is the strongest tool you have in your arsenal. Stop trying to refrain. Stop trying to use self-control and discipline. Just make up your mind, and everything else goes out the window.
And if you take that and just put that in every area of your life,
right?
It just works. Like I'm going to say though, we often talk about and ask our guests about self-care. I think this is the first time, Michele, I've heard someone say eating plants, like it's part of that self-care. Like I've never even heard someone say, let alone eating plants, but just what they're eating in general. And I think that's like an eye-opener thing. Eating healthy is part, I mean, and it makes sense. It is part of self-care. So thank you. Yeah, Michele, everybody's gonna be mad this week.
Yeah, they're in the chat right now, Lisa, like, wait, what? They already think I'm a drill sergeant. Yeah, no more cookies.
Yeah, it's a wrap. Make up your mind and get the work done so we get these results, please.
But that is so incredible. Like, so we're doing this, Lisa, I don't know. You probably don't know that Michele also is a physical trainer, like, and is by far one of the best ever. And so we're doing this 6 weeks challenge, but one of the things that I have been doing outside of the challenge is doing these videos of things that have been confirmed for me while during this challenge. And this conversation is just further things, like there's no such thing as moderation, but that's really not just about in food, it's about in everything. Am I just gonna, do a little cocaine? Like it's no such thing.
Right.
I don't do
because
any,
of what I deserve. Right. Yeah, we all know you don't do cocaine, right? Like because it's like I deserve this, right? Yeah. Because all of these things are so hard. And so, like one of the things in this challenge, and the last 2 that I've done, right, Lisa, I can train people to lift heavy weights all day long. What you do outside of me, the other 23 hours of your day is where the work is, right? Yes. And so I have been like, ooh, they're gonna hate me, right? And this is learning for me as well. I appreciate this. It's learning for me as well, because in my thinking, because I also know the other things that they're carrying, right? That this is a little bit of grace, right? Like this is me giving you grace to say, right? Like we're gonna practice moderation because I know what else you're carrying. And I know you've got to do the work over here, right? So I don't just practice physical fitness, right? I'm talking about the spiritual part of you, right? You're going to get all of that coming from me, which is why I stay small for that very reason. And so I'm giving them the wrong grace.
Yes. I'm sorry, y'all.
The lights, right? Like I've given them the wrong grace. I'm giving them permission to stay in a space that does not serve them.
That's right, Michele. That's
We
right.
have to release the things that no longer serve you. And I don't even think, Michele, at the end of it, I don't think we might cuss a little, but no one's going to be angry, upset, or even say no,
sure.
because it is the best thing. And it is helping to release that which no longer serves us. So, like you said, why am I going to, in moderation, eat the thing that isn't serving me well anyway?
That's right. That's right. Because what they deserve, when we do well, we deserve to celebrate. We don't deserve a cookie, though. So I would recommend, rewarding ourselves with activity as opposed to the stuff that got us in the condition we're trying to get out of.
Mhm.
Right. And so, yeah, you nailed it, Michele. Like, I'm giving them the grace in the wrong area. We have to start inviting our clients to a higher level of consciousness. I don't believe in meeting people where they are. I just don't. I invite them. I invite them to come up here. Yeah, absolutely. I don't believe in meeting you where you are. You
I
are
like that.
compromised.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to trust you with your own decisions up until this point.
True
So why would
story.
I agree? Yeah,
True story.
I got to understand where you are, but I'm not going to meet you where you are.
that's it,
True
Crystal.
story.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Because on your own, you would have done it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I don't
right. I am supposed to be moderating a conversation. My bad.
Well, we can talk about this for hours because it's it's so needed, especially in our community. We have to, I don't know, I think it's also part of remembering who you really are. Mm-hmm. I think that's important because all of these things are telling you all of these things. I do have one question, right? What's your take on, I don't like the word diet. Mm-hmm. Like when people say, oh, I'm going to go on a diet because I need to lose. And I think they then go on a diet and they eat celery and carrot sticks. They lose, 40 pounds. And then because they didn't learn how to eat to maintain that in the first place, they then gain 40, 50, 60 pounds back after they stop eating carrot and celery sticks. So I don't like it. But what is your spin on diet? And if someone says, we've talked a lot about it from the health standpoint, but I'm relatively healthy. I just need to lose. What do I do? Other than eat plants, because I know that's what you're gonna say.
Yeah, well, give your health an assignment. That's the first thing you need to do. So what that means is typically when people set a certain amount of time to commit to something, I'm going to do this for 30 days. I'm going to do this for 60 days. I'm going to do this for 21 days, right? In pursuit of a specific goal, 40 pounds off, 20 pounds off, whatever it is. What they fail to do in that time frame that they designated is to give their health an assignment. When your health has an assignment, that significantly decreases your chances of going back to who you used to be. So what does that mean? That means it sounds beautiful that we want to get healthy for the sake of being healthy. We want to lose weight for the sake of being healthy, but that will not motivate you to stay with it. The thing that ties you to a new lifestyle more permanently is that your health has an assignment, i.e., how do you intend to leverage your health once you arrive at it? What does losing that 40 pounds then allow you to do? So for me, when I gave up all refined sugar, I don't touch refined sugar. It never goes in my body. I do not eat sugar, period, right? I can be around it. I'm not even tempted by it. But the reason I was able to get to that level of self-control is because I am crystal clear on how the sugar disrupts my assignment. My gift is speaking, teaching, and coaching, and sugar causes memory loss. So I can't afford memory loss. So I am very clear on how eating X disrupts what I'm supposed to turn up to do. So understand that once I get to the level of health I desire, the body I want, get off the medications, fight my addictions, what is the assignment that your health now has? Because your health is either one of two things at any given time, a liability or an asset. So once you take your health from a liability to an asset, how will you leverage that asset? So I leverage my brain every single day with what I'm doing here tonight with you guys. Like I could sit here another 3 hours and answer every question y'all got for me, and I'm ready because my health has an assignment. So I'm not getting healthy for the sake of being healthy and all the generic stuff we say to be around for my family and all that. That's cool, but that's also the cost of entry. what will being at a healthy weight, having the energy, you know, being well rested, what will that then allow you to do? Well, if I'm being honest, Lisa, I got this nonprofit that's been sitting on the back burner. I got a book that's been inside of me for 2 years. You know, I got this that I want to do. Give your health an assignment. So once you are clear on how you intend to leverage your results, you then know what's really at risk when you fail.
I love that. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, I do as well, right? And so, like, it's the kind of commitment that will allow you to walk in your kitchen right now and throw away the chips, throw away the cookies, right? As opposed to saying, well, I'll start after I eat it. It's
Right.
right, like both of them are costing you.
Right.
Which one are you willing? Which one can you no longer afford to pay? Right? Like I've had that conversation. Like when I finish these cookies or when I finish this, I will start that thing. Both of them are costing you.
Yep.
Which one are you willing to pay?
That's right.
Which one is going to have a better return on the investment that you're trying to make? And which one is going to bankrupt you? I absolutely love the conversation tonight, Lisa. I love the education that you gave me to rethink some of the ways in which I'm pouring into the women that I get to bless through fitness. So thank you for that. You absolutely will be hearing from me. And they'll love me for it in the end.
We will. We will.
Yes.
We absolutely will.
I
Cussing might come along with it, but we will absolutely. This was fantastic, which is why I also knew you needed to be on here by yourself, because we usually have 2 guests, but I was like, I knew we were going, especially with you and Michele, we were going to really go deep in this. So I thank you for that. I celebrate you for your seat at the table, because tell us again, you are the only, tell us again.
Yeah, like the founder of the only plant-based coaching certification to be founded by a person of color.
Wow.
Which is huge, because I remember when Dr. Simone was on here, how she said the medical books weren't made for us. Like,
that's right.
They weren't made for Black folks. So for you to be the first, the only, and I'm super excited about that. I celebrate you in that. This has been absolutely wonderful. I don't even know what else to say. I don't. I'm Crystal Gunn. I'm a Black woman and I own my amazing. Like, Michele.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Not a lot for words. Like.
Right. Right. When your soul has been fed.
Yeah.
Right. There's a knowledge that when you get it and you refuse to move on it, you are complicit in killing a generation. Let me be clear. When you have knowledge that you refuse, you deny, you sweep under, you are killing a generation. We are now all more aware, and we have an assignment with what to do with that awareness. Thank you, Crystal Gunn, for continuing to be obedient to the call in your life that created a platform to have conversations like this, where we become both teachers and learners. We are required to sit at the table to obtain all of the things that have been gifted to us through these conversations. Thank you for the obedience. Being able to share this platform with you is one of my greatest joys. Being able to have these conversations and to uplift Black women, to share their stories, to cry together, to laugh together, to grow together, to learn together. I am forever grateful that you remain obedient to the call on your life. I am a new person today. Baby, when they say knowledge is a dangerous thing, knowledge with this one, with power and faith, owning my agency all the more. My name is Michele Harper. I am a Black woman, and I own this next level of my amazing. Thank you, Lisa Smith. Come on in here.
Thank you. Thank you. I am Lisa A. Smith, and I own my amazing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please find Amazing Women Speak on YouTube. You all are definitely, especially if you came in on the end, want to go back and watch this. Give me till tomorrow. It will be up tomorrow. Go back and check past episodes. There is something that is going to bless your life. I promise you. I had no idea that when Michele and I sat in that car, and we talked about the bullshit bar, and Michele was like, look, that's what we need to be talking about, that we would have had such amazing and dope women. We talk about that all of the time, but the information, the inspiration, the empowerment that you, Michele, and these women that have been on this show have provided, it blows me away literally every single time we get off of here. I'm going to have a moment when we end this show today. I can promise you that. So thank you so much again, Michele. Thank you always for leading this conversation. Red, Cindy, Deja, I know y'all, if you're listening, I'm sorry for what's coming this week, but I know for sure it is definitely going to make us better, and it's going to ramp up that challenge. Be sure to mark your calendars for next Sunday at 7, where we continue the topic of my seat at the table with 2 amazing women entrepreneurs who are owning their space in their industries. Thank you so much, and good night, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.